time for our picks of the week. Alex, you want some time, or do you have something for us?
Sure. No, I don't need any time. The CFO in the company, who happens to also be my wife, has been giving me a lot of grief that I don't keep track of my mileage, for tax purposes and all those things.
Yeah. And you need that FreshBooks.
And that's
ABC, always be closing.
Yeah. So the app that I started playing with that I'm pretty happy with is Mile IQ. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's very good.
And so
and you can say this is business, this is personal. You can
and it's just like cards. I think the interface is just really good.
Yep.
So you just have it. You don't have to think about it. Once it's on, you're just driving around, and it just keeps track of car stop, car start.
Yep.
It just keeps track of all your movements and breaks those up into trips. And then you just scroll back and forth. You can add, some notes to it, and so on and so forth. And then you can just submit it all as an email. And I can't remember how much it costs, but it was I think it was some kind of
$1.99, something like that. It's not expensive.
Yeah, it was easy. And anyway, I found it to be I always like to see good interfaces. Like, they thought about it. They made it easy. They make it. These kind of things need to get to a point where they're kind of seamless. Like, you don't think about it unless you let your battery run out on your phone, and then you have to restart it.
You're sorry.
Then you take that long trip, and then you go back to itemize it, and you're like, it's gone.
Oh, it's free, but there must be in-app purchases, right?
I think there's an in-app purchase for it.
Yeah.
And to subscribe to it or whatever.
Yeah, there you go. $5.99. All right.
Yeah, but you can play with it. You can download it for free, play with it, and then upgrade it, which I think is a good. When we talk about demos, I mean, I think that kind of demo thing works pretty well, where you just do in-app purchase to move to that process. But I'm kind of surprised that now I understand why she was so upset, because once I started doing it, I realized how many business trips I was just kind of
paying attention. Yeah.
I was like, oh,
log your miles.
I drive a lot,
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that it's a pretty useful app.
Mile IQ. Mileage IQ? Mile IQ.
Mile IQ.
Mile IQ. Keep track of your driving. We also, the Automatic, which is another sponsor, that little OBD2 dongle will do that for you too, which is nice. I like something that does it automatically, because it is a pain in the butt.
It really has to be. Yeah, those are the kinds of things you want to have happen.
Yeah.
Just in the,
and there's no reason it
background.
can't now, really.
Yep.
Renee Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So I have a pick of the week that I am completely unqualified to properly represent, but I'm going to mention it anyway because it is awesome. It's called Pythonista. It just hit version 2.0, and we were talking about automation and scripting before. And what Pythonista does is bring pretty awesome Python scripting abilities to iOS. It's made by Olzorn, who's the same one who made Editorial, which also has phenomenal scripting ability. Yeah, that's Federico Viticci from Mac Story is right up on it, and he's a huge iPad Pro and automation connoisseur. And it does everything that you'd expect it to do. Again, I know nothing about Python, and I have not had a chance to use it, but just looking at it, it is so impressive, and it shows that things like this and like workflow and like editorial shows that for all the limitations that are imposed on iOS, there are still some spectacularly cool things that can be done with it. So if you've been frustrated at the lack of your ability to maybe script or automate or code tasks on iOS, Pythonista, the big change in version 2.0 is it now supports all the new screen sizes up to and including iPad Pro and all the iOS awesome. 9 features. That's fantastic. But it just looks incredible.
I used to, for a long time, when I tried to install Forth and Python on every mobile device, I gave up. But this, I mean, you got a complete IDE. I don't know how many hooks you have into iOS, but you could write Python apps, and then in some cases, you'd actually be able to hook into iOS and do stuff. This is, boy, that's power.
Yeah, and they put stuff in the action extensions, which is sort of like what Workflow does, which means that they're not bound only to their own app. You can implement some of that stuff inside other apps.
That's great. Boy, this is nice.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that when you do this, this really puts lie to the idea that an iPad is a consumption device, because this is a programming language. You know?
Contrary to Microsoft today, who called it a companion device, you can actually do pretty cool stuff on it.
Yeah. Wow. That's nice. I love Python.
Yeah.
Good pick. Pythonista, $10 from iTunes for your iOS device from OMZ Software. Andy Ihnatko?
I'm still on the... Whoops, have I frozen?
You're frozen solid.
Oh, dear.
That's a good shot, though. Put it up again. I like it. He looks... you look like Intrepid. The intrepid Andy Ihnatko. The implacable Andy Ihnatko.
We'll do the TWiT Theater of the Air. Now, here we are boarding our spaceship to investigate the 7th quadrant. If only an intrepid young reporter, Polly Henderson, were here to document this.
Oh, you're just auditioning for the next Incomparable. I know you.
I need to update my radio IMDb.
What do you got for us? Actually, got two things, but one of them you want to show, I know. So
one I wanted to show, so if we can't get the video going, then we'll just save that for next week. I had a couple of things anyway. So the other one is Aurora HDR, which is I think someone's recommended. It's been a while. It's been around for a little while, so I think that someone else certainly picked it. But I wanted to add my own endorsement because I actually bought my own copy of it a few weeks ago, and it's such a great tool. People have this idea correctly. Of that HDR is historically where it's a professional photographer on a tripod bracketing exposures to get pictures of sunsets, and it's really the sort of thing that you would only get if you are this really highfalutin photographer. But the thing is that HDR also works with a single individual photo. So for instance, you can actually just take a picture with your phone and then dump it into Aurora HDR, and it will basically look for all of the detail that's sort of hidden in there to create a sort of an HDR based on sort of exposure twiddling with it. But the upshot is that it is such a quick and effective way to get from the photo that you have to the photo that you had in mind. It's not as though the Photos app or Lightroom or Aperture can't help you to bring out details and shadows and intensify colors. But the thing is, the first VR will make is going to be really close to something more dramatic and wonderful. And then when you start sliding things around, not with an understanding necessarily of what each of these things do, but just sliding things around. Say, I wish that were a little bit brighter. I wish the shadows were a little bit less intense. I think that red is a little bit too strong. I think that green should be a little bit stronger. You can just push sliders around, and just gets great results. It really is. We're now at the point where if you spent more than $180 on a smartphone, all of the cameras are at least within, let's say, 5 percentage points of each other. But then when you add a tool like Aurora HDR, it turns into something that's super close to what you'd get off of a really good $500 or $600 pocket camera, because it will just simulate all of those effects. And don't even think that of course, the demo pictures they have up there are the sort of super HDR looking, bordering on artificial looking stuff, but you can also get really subtle effects. One of the things I've been doing with it recently is just going through old photos in my Flickr gallery of pictures that were as good as I could make them last year or the year before, and then even just downloading it as a JPEG. I'll open it in Aurora HDR to see if I can make it better. And so I have this, I think I have a link to it in the show notes of this picture of this comedian and cosplayer from New York Comic Con 2014, 2013, that super low light. I had to jack up the ISO really, really high. So I was never really super happy with it, but put it into Aurora HDR and was able to finally tweak it so that it looks like it was shot at 200 ISO with good lighting. So really, really happy with it. It's $40. You can get a free demo of it that will do everything except for save images, I think. For $40, you get the version that will process JPEGs. For $100, you get the version that can also handle RAW files natively, has a few extra features. I went for the $99 version, and part of it was just that I just wanted these people to have more money. So well, really happy with it. It's almost as, for a lot of people, it's almost as good as buying a whole new camera or upgrading your phone just to get a better camera.
Yeah, there are a lot of HDR programs. I used Photomatics for years. This is Trey Ratcliffe's program. He designed it with MacFun, and he's the king of HDR. And it's a modern UI for one thing, but it really does a nice job. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. This is just a fantastic
even just as a generalized photo editor, it's just fantastic. And if you spring for the $100, it will also integrate with Aperture and Lightroom, so you can just simply pull it down off a menu.
Right. MacFun makes a lot of really nice plugins, including Tonality Pro, which we've also mentioned. A good black and white
noiseless too. That's
noiseless,
another thing that if you're using a phone as your primary camera, it will just do such a great job of knocking down all that high ISO noise that are almost inevitable when you're shooting in low light.
Yeah, I think this is an important point. Is that an HDR doesn't require multiple images. Even with your smartphone now, there's enough dynamic range in the single image that you can actually do some really great stuff, and it doesn't have to look like you're painting something. It could be these guys have done a great job with it. I completely agree with you. Aurora HDR from MacFun, PHUN. Well, Rene, since you mentioned, I'm going to blame you on this. Since you mentioned Pythonista, I'm going to show you 2 programs for the Macintosh that I really like. Not very expensive. As you know, I'm a programming language aficionado. I collect them. Love Python, but I've been playing a lot with functional languages, which is the oldest kind of languages, and for many reasons, some often consider the best languages for learning programming, like Lisp. There's an excellent Lisp in the App Store, which I highly recommend. Confusingly named Clojure, CLOZURECL, but it is a full common Lisp. It includes a REPL, an IDE, everything you need to program, and it's very easy. You don't have to use Emacs, which a lot of people do. Highly recommend it. And I think this is free. And then because I've been also learning Haskell, I was very pleased to find this. Haskell is a really remarkable programming language, also functional, that's being used by more and more people. And we're lucky because on Mac, the easiest way to learn Haskell is with Haskell Functional Programming Lab for the Mac. I don't have it installed in here. It's $20. Well worth it, because it not only gives you an IDE and the ability to write Haskell programs, but it's got a playground. And one of the points that the programmers make on this is inspired by Swift. You know, REPLs, the idea that you'd have a command line where you could try language commands and see the result, were great in their day. But really, playgrounds are the new hotness, and Swift really introduced that. And if you've been looking to learn functional languages, this is a really great way to do it. This has a playground that allows you to execute Haskell commands, modify Haskell programs while you're running them. It really is sweet. And so this makes the Mac really the platform to learn Haskell or Lisp with Clojure CL. So two for one there. And don't just because all of those other, Objective-C, Swift, C++, those are at the Java, those are the languages for the popular kids. Don't turn your back on functional programming.